$6.2 billion in one auction, charged for data centers nobody has built yet. Your power bill is already paying for them. Two governments can look at the same data center and both be telling the truth about it. The county that hosts it collects property tax on every server inside. The state that granted the tax break gives up revenue across everyone who lives there. Neither ledger is wrong, and neither one is the whole picture. This is a deep dive into who actually pays for the build-out, drawn from research published over the past 2 years. Every figure here carries the date its own source gave it, because almost none of this happened this week. Good Jobs first reported in June that these subsidies reward capital investment rather than hiring, so the public routinely pays more than $1 million for one permanent job. Virginia put its sales tax break for fiscal 2025 at $1.94 billion. 14 of the 37 states with these exemptions still do not publish what they cost. Now the other book. A 2026 report by Mangum Economics for the Northern Virginia Technology Council found data centers paid about $1.3 billion in local property taxes across Northern Virginia in 2024, and that without them, Loudoun County's residential rate would climb from 80.5 cents to about $1.54. Think of a block party where one house collects at the gate and the whole street pays for the cleanup. The county collects, the Commonwealth forgoes. Both books are real. The benefit case was commissioned by an industry group, now the power bill. PJM runs the grid for parts of 13 states and 67 million people, and its December 2025 capacity auction was the most expensive in its history. The independent market monitor found data center load accounted for $6.5 billion, 40% of the $16.4 billion the auction cost, and that about $6.2 billion of it covered data centers nobody has built. Across 3 delivery years, prices went from $28.92 per megawatt day to $329, then $333, the last two pinned at the federally approved cap. That cap held the last auction $9.9 billion below what it would have cost. It has now expired. It is like a restaurant taking a deposit for tables that have not been installed, then losing the rule that limited the deposit. The monitor also campaigns for market reform, and PJM disputes parts of its account. Then the neighbors. Gallup surveyed 1,000 adults in March and found 7 in 10 Americans oppose an artificial intelligence data center in their local area, 48% strongly. In the same survey, 53% opposed a nuclear plant nearby. Half of them named excessive use of resources. Research by Wren and Weirman at UC Riverside and Caltech estimates American data centers will need 697 to 1,451 million gallons a day of new peak water capacity through 2030, comparable to New York City's daily supply. That is their baseline case. An efficiency case puts it at 227 to 604. Data centers evaporate about 75% of the water they withdraw, against roughly 12% for other public water users. Withdrawal is a library loan. Consumption is a sale. Bloomberg found about 2/3 of sites built or planned since 2022 sit where water stress is already high. 2 more threads. The Environmental Data and Governance Initiative found the 4 million people living within a mile of about 550 permitted data centers are disproportionately people of color and face above median particulate and nitrogen dioxide. In Memphis, county officials permitted 15 gas turbines at one site in July 2025, allowing 87 tons of nitrogen oxides a year. And Maine came closest to a hard limit and missed. The legislature passed a coordination and moratorium bill. Governor Mills vetoed it in April, and the override failed. No state has an enacted data center moratorium. What exists instead is local. Loudoun County, the world's largest concentration of data centers, ended by right development in March 2025, so a project there now needs a hearing. So what is actionable here? Whether data centers raise your household rate is genuinely unresolved. Harvard's Electricity Law Initiative says utilities shift costs onto captive ratepayers through contracts that are not public. E3, working for the Data Center Coalition, found no historical evidence of that. Both sides agree it depends on how large loads are charged. Oregon's regulators approved a large load rate class in July, raising the biggest users nearly 30% while residential rates fell. If a project is pitched near you, ask for the permanent job count, not the investment figure. 3 things to hold. 1. The county collects and the state forgoes, and both ledgers are honest. 2. 40% of the last PJM capacity auction was data center load, and a cap that softened it is gone. 3. 7 in 10 Americans do not want one nearby, and water is why. The fight over who pays is moving to zoning boards and utility commissions, which is where you can actually be in the room. Like and subscribe to get notified when the next episode lands. Sources are linked in the description. I'm Ms. Kim.